we're in Foodservice Power Plant Network. Hi, friends. Monday night, which remains like you get to start the week grinding, going, building, connecting, doing what we love. And then we get a little bit of respite on a Monday night to connect with an industry leader to pick their brain, to find out what makes them tick, what's contributed to their success, what obstacles have they overcome on their journey, all in the hopes that we might learn, because we believe success leaves clues. Tonight is going to be awesome. We have Argyle Campbell from Cambro joining us tonight. Everybody knows Cambro in the industry. I have to imagine Cambro is in virtually every restaurant in the country, and perhaps it's the world. And he's going to join us, I believe, second generation. We're going to pick his brain more on that at Cambro, and he's going to share with us some of his story. And we're super lucky to get that tonight. Now, a couple of tips for you. Number one, grab a pen and paper. Argyle's going to drop some nuggets of wisdom that he might not even recognize, but you might need in your journey. So I would encourage you to take some notes, stew on them, chew on them, and maybe tomorrow morning when you wake up, you'll realize, wait a minute, that was something for me, and that can help me in my journey. Secondly, you are more than welcome to comment, to ask questions. Zena Dater's in the house. Zena is ready. I love it, Zena. Good to see you. Someone is eating dinner with the Winston Squad. Big love to you, Wanger. Hey, Winston Squad. What's up, everybody? Here's what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm not like texting all my neighbors or my wife. I'm actually going to go in right now, and I'm going to come find everybody if just so I can see who is commenting. Here we go. Oh, Nicky Dolan. That was Nick Dolan. Yo, Nick. How are you, brother? Taz Sutherland with Walmart down in Bentonville is ready for this. Yo, Taz, good to see you. And get ready for another hour. We're excited to have you. Listen, real quick, too. Let's thank the people that help make this possible. Supporting partners, Zumba Group, Maureen, Dave, Joe, the whole team over there. Thanks for believing in this mission of spreading positivity and mindset tools to lift us all up. Chelsea and the team at Craven Company for all the good things you're doing to help get the word out about what we're trying to do and lift people up. Thanks to you all. Josh Callahan's in the house with Calmo. Yo, Josh. Zena's excited. Nils Hughes. Yeah, it's Argyle. There we go. Hey, Nils. Hope you're well. Let's go find him. The man, the myth, Argyle. Hey, man.
Hey, how you doing?
You know what? I'm great. How the heck are you?
Doing great.
Good. Thanks for joining us. You know, I am so excited to hear some of your story. There's such enthusiasm around this conversation with you. I think people are excited to hear a different side of your journey. So, you know, you're currently CEO and president, I think, of Cambro. Yes?
Correct.
Can you fill us in on some of your journey? Kind of what's your story? How you got to where you are today?
Okay. No problem. So Cambro was started in 1951 by my dad and my uncle. It was the name of the company was Campbell Brothers, and it got shortened to Cambro. So now you know part of the story anyhow. And that happened, like I said, in 1951, and with one product, a tray, and one customer, American Hospital Supply Corporation, and an idea and a vision. And so I think, as I understand it, I was very young at that point. 3 years old, and people think I started the company, but I said that's sort of improbable and unlikely. But anyway, we had our first order of 2,000 trays to this hospital, and they never really cured. It was a new process called fiberglass compression molding. They never really cured properly, so we had to replace the entire order, and that was pretty tough for a brand new startup company. So that's how the company got started. Got started in Los Angeles, California. And then in 1955, we moved down to the company in Huntington Beach. We moved the family to Newport Beach, and so that's where the next part of the journey started. And we've continued and grown and grown and grown and grown, and that's so to where we are today.
Okay, so Argyle, when I came into the industry because my dad was a rep, and I was putting away flatware at 8 years old, and I was polishing kettles in the kitchen, right? All this.
Right.
When did you start at Cambro? Were you sweeping the floors in the back when you were 8 or anything like that? When did you start? When did you get into it?
Well, so I don't think my dad really knew anything about child labor laws. So I got started early. I think maybe I remember my first encounter with Cambro. I think it was Christmas vacation of, I think it was 7th grade. And he asked me at the beginning of the vacation, "Hey, you got anything planned?" And I, being naive and not knowing exactly what to say, "Oh no, I don't really have anything planned." That was the worst answer I ever gave, because he said, "Well, why don't you come with me on Monday morning?" And I ended up for that whole Christmas vacation painting the walls at Cambro with a roller. And that wasn't, believe me, that was not water-based paint, and it was horrible. And nobody would tell me that I could actually take a break. And I'm sure behind the scenes they thought that was so funny, but it taught me one lesson: always have a plan. And I never ever answered again, "Oh, I don't have anything planned." Man, I had my vacations planned out to the minute.
That's awesome. That's great. At what point was it then, when you were growing into adulthood? Was there a point that you said, you know what, I want to be a part of this? I like what my dad started, and I want to be a part of this mission. What they're doing.
It was just the opposite. I wanted no part of it. So I don't know. I just didn't want to do it. And then my dad's accountant came in. We got to have lunch and so forth and so on. And he said, "You know what, your dad's," and I think this was a setup too, if you actually, truth be known, "Oh, your dad's thinking about selling the company, and this is one big opportunity, and you shouldn't pass it up." And so I'm thinking, "Oh, okay, so all right, so okay, let's give it a whirl." So that's how I got started. And once you're in, man, that's pretty tough to get out. So
we know the vortex keeps you in, doesn't it? The food
right.
service vortex. This is great. Look at this. Marty Monet is here. Yo, Marty, looking forward to hearing from Argyle. Gosh, yo, buddy. Dan Miles, the Camely is hitting prime time. Camely. Tell me what Camely is. What does he reference there?
Well, I think the Camely is just sort of the Cambro family, and it was we started saying that in our international sales meetings, as the international group is a tight group, and since they don't really compete with one another, they're probably a little tighter than domestic. Although now we've adopted it in all of the company. We all call ourselves the Camely.
Love it. What a great culture building way to connect people. I think that's awesome. David Maxwell's ready for a great conversation. I think David had said he saw you twice in 2 weeks at one point, one in California for a training, and then in North Carolina, I think it was.
Lucky guy, right?
No kidding. Lucky guy. Chip Little, he's loving the facial hair. You're getting 2 facial hair comments. Nick Merkovich is saying, great beard. Apparently, Argyle looks solid, man. It's really thick and full.
Yeah, well, there's a little story. I was vaccinated, and I had my booster shot, and I thought I was bulletproof. Well, apparently I wasn't, because lo and behold, I got COVID right at the beginning of May. And so then I was just started down and out. And then I did, well, I better shave. And I thought, oh, let me try this for a little bit. And so that's how it got started. And then 2 weeks ago, or actually 2.5 weeks ago, I decided I couldn't go with my shoulder anymore. So I had shoulder replacement surgery, which I wouldn't recommend for anybody if anybody's thinking about it. But I didn't want to live the rest of my life in, having it hurt all the time. So then I thought, well, I can't really shave now, so I'll just keep doing it.
I love it. You should run with it. It looks great. You're getting all the comments. This is awesome. Love the outstanding Scottish name from Taz. This is great. Dwayne, this is Camtastic. Holy smokes. Marcus Calvary's in the house, up from Kesnick's. Yo, Marcus, excited for the conversation. Enjoy Argyle. Jason the man. So great to see so many friends. Okay, Argyle. In researching you, as I was just Googling you and I ended up on YouTube, you've got a pretty awesome hobby. I don't know if that's the word for it, but as a sailor, I mean, the amount of awards you've won, and I watched an interview with you talking about, hiring professional racers and sailors to be a part of your team. Tell me about this part of your life, how you got into sailing and why it's become such a love.
Well, in short, my parents liked doing it. We lived in Los Angeles. We as a family, we went down to Balboa, and we had a little room that we stayed at. And my parents, and then eventually my sister, would all go out sailing. And they left me on the beach with a babysitter because I was the youngest. I didn't think that was a very good idea. So I somehow or another talked my way into it. And my dad had this idea that I should know how to swim before I could go sailing. I don't know. sort of old school that way. So I had to learn how to swim and pass the swimming test. And then I got into sailing, and I loved it ever since. And there's a whole story to it, but I've done it, and I love it. I love the competition, and that's how I got started.
Where do you sail? Is it all over the world that you compete in these races?
I have competed in most parts of the world. Right now, it's basically just North America, either San Diego, which is just down the road, or there's a big winter series that starts in December and goes through May, I guess, in Biscayne Bay down Miami.
Okay. Is this okay? I don't know much about sailing. So is this one boat that goes to all these places with you, or is it different boats all over?
Okay, so the class I sail in is called an Etchells, and an Etchells is a 30-foot one design class. They're not all over the world, but they're in a few places in the world. And the boat lives on a trailer, so I have one boat. And if I want to sail in San Diego, excuse me, I have it down there. And then if I want to sail in Miami, I have to figure out somebody that's going to come get it and drive it across the country, because I've done it and I don't really want to do it again. It's sort of an adventure the first time, but after that, the United States is a long way from West Coast to East Coast, and once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Sure.
So. And then, so all the West Coast events that are of any note are sailed out of San Diego, and the East Coast events are sailed out of Miami.
Wow.
And the boat lives on a trailer. And when we go down to Miami, it stays at one place, and there's like 4 or 5 events, and everybody goes down there and they get a place to keep the boat. It's real simple, and they've got it organized pretty well.
What an awesome hobby. Here's a great question. Sailing equals the shoulder problems? Is that a part of the shoulder replacement? Does that come from sailing? I don't know.
I'm wondering that myself. I'm not quite sure about that. All I know is I think I got I think I must have got a 70-year-old body. And once I hit 70, things started to fall apart.
Start using the other arm as you're like raising the sail or whatever.
Right.
That's great. Who's this? Bill. Hey, Bill. 6 of us streaming from the Havana Cafe and Bistro in Orlando at the S&A show. Hey, everybody. Hey, Bill. How cool is that? That's awesome. This is really, really great. Great boats. Love it. This is fun. Big fleet in Annapolis, apparently. Okay, cool. Awesome. Argyle, you and I talked a couple weeks ago about leadership, about kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. And you had talked about how leaders and entrepreneurs have to be able to withstand some level of risk, that there's risks that are taken, and there are certain qualities kind of in leaders that you've seen and you've had to live yourself. What are some of those qualities that you see in leaders to make those successful, to persevere through challenging times?
I think probably the most one of the most important things for me is because I'm the owner, I have the ability to take the risk and take the financial risk, and that doesn't bother me. So I don't worry about the financial risk so much as I want to make sure that we're engaging in something that I think there's got a high degree of success. Yeah. So but you have to have the confidence to make that decision. And because now to do projects like we do is, it's nothing to spend quite a bit of money to bring a new product to market. So you had to have that confidence. It's fun. If it's not fun, you shouldn't do it. But it's a lot of fun to bring products to the market and expand a business, and to try to change people's way of food handling and processing food. That's the fun of it. And it really, when it boils down to it, if you're not having fun, then you probably should be doing something else.
I love it. Would you say it's always been fun for you, or have there been moments kind of up and down and along the way?
There's always things that come along when you're running a business that aren't too much fun, right? So I can't say that every little minute of every little day has been fun, but even solving problems is fun and rewarding. And when you get it right and things change around, and then that's rewarding. That's fun.
Heck yeah. Do you see, your willingness to try new things. You love creating products. You love finding solutions. I'm sure every product is a solution for a
Right.
need that exists in the market. Do you find your love of that and your willingness to take those risks translates to your team, that they're like, you know what, if Argyle's in, let's do this, people?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. If it's so critical for the owner to be in,
Yeah.
and if I'm in and everybody's behind it, or if I come up with an idea, we have a tight team, and people aren't they're not they don't mind telling me that it's a stupid idea. So that happens occasionally, also.
Okay. I got to think, as a leader, you kind of like that. You know that,
Yeah,
that people are willing to
absolutely.
be honest about it and not just yes women and yes men saying whatever you want, sir.
No. That's not the culture around here. Believe me.
Hmm.
I tell them when they're screwed up, and they tell me when I'm screwed up. So that's just the way it goes here at Cambro.
I love it. Two-way street. Everyone can trust one another's words are being
Right,
authentic. That's great.
right.
What? Okay. Any daily or weekly disciplines you have? I mean, to be someone who owns Cambro, one of the biggest names in all of our industry, it seems like a big job. And you've got a life outside of Cambro, and you sail and all these wonderful things that you do. It seems like you live a full experience. Any disciplines that help keep you up or keep you excited or creative that you've incorporated into your daily life?
Well, I'm always thinking about how Cambro can be better, and how we
Hmm.
can go to market better, and how we can manufacture better. But I try not to, I can let it go, and then I can do something else. That's the greatest thing too about sailboat racing. I can't do two things at once. Both are difficult,
Yeah.
and I don't like, honestly, I don't like losing. So I have to put full effort into either one. So I think that's different. You have different activities. You have a family, and I think the ability to turn it off when you go home is, you might still be thinking about it, but don't bring it home with you unless,
Hmm.
okay, if somebody asks, "Hey, how's Cambro going?" Oh, I'll tell them, or tell them what they, a little bit about it if they're interested, a little bit more about it. They try to sort of keep things a little bit separated.
Yeah, that's good. Is that something you've learned over time? I would say in the early part of my career, I really struggled with that. I've gotten better at it, about separating it, keeping home and work at work. Is that something that you've evolved into, or is that something that you realized sort of early on? No, you really need to keep these separate, have good boundaries.
I'm sure that over the years I've improved in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've improved in it.
Good for you. Look at this. Watching with you guys from Florida, the PKI group. That's Ben, I'm sure. Hey, Ben. Nils, Cambro Military Boot Camp. I don't know what that is. Does that mean something to you, Argyle?
Well, we have sales training. I don't know if people call it a boot camp or not.
You've got what training?
We have sales training. So
Oh, sales training.
yeah, we have a facility in North Carolina and one out here in California. So we do as much training as we can possibly do.
Good for you. I love it. Keep people learning, always learning and growing. I think that's something I appreciate, Argyle, is this. You're always thinking about how do we make it better? How can we improve? I mean, I think that has to be a fundamental question of any leadership team. Always on your mind is what's next? This not willingness to just settle for where we are now.
Right. That goes the entire width and depth of the company. It's not just in the sales side. It's in the manufacturing side, it's in the facility side, it's in the planning side, it's in the inventory management side. How can we do it better? How can we, get closer to perfect? Maybe we'll never get to perfect, but we always have to keep trying to get to perfect. But we got to figure out what perfect is anyway, and that's also a little bit of a challenge.
Sure. And I have to imagine that your definition of perfect today is not tomorrow's definition of perfect, because the needs have changed or the environment's changed, and what's needed tomorrow is a little bit different then.
Right. Right. Yep.
Melissa Greenwald out of Ohio. Hi, Melissa. Your social media presence is top notch. How do you engage with your team to support that and encourage them to push them to be better? I guess this is right in line on the heels of what we were just talking about, that constant, never ending improvement.
Yeah. That's become a big deal, right? So
Yeah.
social media, and I'm not the one that spearheads that, but we have some really creative people that know what they're doing, know how to do it, know how to create a social media presence, and all sorts of platforms, and they do a great job of it. And I just let them do it.
Love it.
I mean, I didn't grow up with social media.
You weren't doing Instagram reels at 10 or 11?
No.
I think the key word there is creative that you mentioned. You've got some real creative people willing to try new things.
Right. And I let them create. I mean, you know what's the worst thing can happen? Somebody will make a little mistake, big deal. I mean, if you don't let creative people create, then what's the point of it?
Heck yeah. I'm sure that freedom is really encouraging for them to try new things. You're right. Here's a question. This ties into the heels of another question that we had. Scott Wacker. Hey, Scott, what are the biggest challenges you've faced this year, Argyle?
Supply chain.
Yeah. I imagine it seems to be the recurring theme. I assume, one of the things on your website that I think is super fortunate for you all, it says of North American products supplied, 99% of them, or of the products supplied in North America to North American customers, 99% were made in the USA.
Right. Yep. We have a manufacturing plant in North Carolina.
Wow.
We have a pretty broad manufacturing capability there. Then we have 2 factories right here in Huntington Beach. Wow. And between the 3, we have a huge amount of output, and that statement is true. And I think it's really served us well, especially as we come into all this logjam at the ports. And man, I'll tell you what, the supply chain can be very frustrating and very plugged up. But the ability to sort of control your own destiny it has really proved to be good.
Kudos to you and your team for having that foresight and deciding, you know what, we're going to make things here. I have to imagine, this is the perfect time where you get to enjoy that, and your customers get to say, well, thankfully we have Cambro because it's not stuck on a port or stuck on the water or whatever. Right. We can get it. Good for you.
Right. Yeah.
Is there excuse me, one of the questions that I had asked you in terms of challenges is it's easy to look at our industry's leaders and think, it's not easy to know their stories or what they've been through or recognize the fact that we all go through challenges. We all go through hard times. It's easy when I'm going through a hard time to think I'm unique in that I'm the only person that stumbles or trips or that has misfortune along the way. Was there a challenge in your journey, Argyle, that you fought through, you learned through, and really helped kind of build your confidence or teach you what you were made of?
Well, I think one thing that happened a long time ago is that we had international distributions, and it completely fell apart. And we had an export management company. It completely fell apart, and it had to start all over again. And then, which I didn't really know that much about, but all of a sudden, I found out that nobody else did either. So I took that on and tried to figure out how we were going to sell our products internationally. And that was a project. Yeah, that was a challenge.
Good for you. And I assume kind of digging in and getting your hands dirty to figure out how are we going to do this. You learned so much more than, someone else doing it or just about the way the whole global economy works, I'm thinking.
Yep, you do. Absolutely. Yep. And there's a place and way to do it. And all parts of the world aren't the same. You learn that too. In fact, that's one of the best things you do learn is the world's a big place and all the parts of the world are not the same. They don't all think the same. And they don't all operate the same. We got to accept that. If you can't accept that, you can't be successful doing it.
I think that's wisdom right there to know that you speaking one language or training one way isn't relevant everywhere. You got to learn what they need and how they listen.
Right.
It's less about what we say and more about what they hear. Right. This is our buddy Rusty Gilmore with Diversified Ceramics. 57 years ago with my family, I was blessed to visit the home and factory, and we went out. I assume this is at Cambro. We went out on the biggest boat I'd ever seen. On our trip there, I almost drowned. Rusty, maybe we should have had you swimming before you got on the boat too. Argyle's sister tried to help me overcome that fear in their pool. My folks were so appreciative. What an incredible family. How cool. Did you know that story, Argyle?
I may have heard it, but that's a long time ago, believe me.
That is really, really awesome. Rusty, what a cool story, and really, really neat. That's awesome. David says, woot woot for, how do you pronounce that? Mebane? North Carolina?
Mebane. Yeah,
Mebane?
Mebane.
Mebane,
Yeah,
got it.
that's when we first discovered Mebane. We called it Mebane until we got there, and then the natives thought we were sort of we must be from California. So we learned.
I guess that, to your point, you got to go there and figure out how that, what things are.
Yep.
Here's a question. Who is this? This is our buddy Charlie Serrata with NAFM. What role does crude oil prices play in your product lineup, and how do you stay on top of such a shifting commodity?
Well, they play a primary role in all of the raw material we use, and sometimes it stays the same for months or years on end, and sometimes you get big spikes. Right now we're in the spike area, so you just have to adjust your prices accordingly. And if you don't adjust your prices, since such a high percentage of our product cost is in raw material, you're headed for a disaster. So you don't have any choice. You have to do it.
Great question, Charlie. Yeah, I don't. It seems like everyone I know is in the same boat. Yep. Figuring that out right now. What's a great question, Charlie? Thank you, brother. Okay, Argyle, in the last 5 years, is there a new behavior, belief, or habit that you've been chewing on that's most improved your life in some capacity?
Well, I try to work out 3 times a week. That helps. So that's a good thing.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I probably of nature could become a micromanager, but I absolutely have determined that I'm not going to be. And I know that if I am, Cambro couldn't grow. So I delegate and let people run with their responsibilities.
That sounds like wisdom right there. That ability, like you were talking about your social media team or your marketing team, just letting them be creative, keeping out of their way and letting them do their thing.
Yep, absolutely. That's important.
Good for you. Here's another one. Who's this? This is, I can't see who this is, but Paul Angrick's on. Yo, Paul. Glenn Wallace in the house. Cheers to another great family-owned food service manufacturing company. Heck yes, we love it. Nathan Sugar's in the house. Okay, finish this statement. I am happiest when...
That's a good question. Well, I have to kind of break it in two. At Cambro, I'm happiest when Cambro's successful and things are running correctly and we're making quality products and giving perfect service. On a personal note, I'm happiest when I'm winning sailboat races.
Love it. Great. How many do you have this year, Argyle?
Well, we have. Let me see. We had a series. We had a series in Florida that got a little bit messed up schedule wise, but we did that. And then there's some sailing in San Diego, and and this year we have some sailing. However, I just had shoulder replacement surgery, so I have to wait it out here a little bit until my shoulder decides it wants to cooperate. So,
gosh, I hope you're feeling okay, recovering all right. Scott Wacker, what changes, hey Scott, do you see happening in food service over the next 5 years? Is there anything you're looking into the future and thinking, you know what, I'm predicting here's a left turn we're going to make as an industry?
That's a good question. I think that people are going to want to get things, supplies and all the product they need to run food service. They're not going to want to wait. They're going to want it's going to have to be immediate, like next day. That's what people are getting used to, and that you can give that to Amazon. So I think that's where we're headed. Perfect service.
Yep. It seems we're seeing the shift certainly in our industry with dealers and inventory and all of the changes that are happening. That's a great answer. I think you're right about that. for any younger folks who are starting their career, they're 22, they're out of school and they're joining Cambro, what's the advice, or nieces or nephews or whoever it is, what's the advice you give anyone just beginning in food service that would help most greatly lead to their career success and development?
Well, jump in. You got to jump in. You're never going to know if you're going to like it unless you jump in. Don't be too particular on your first job. It's the way life works. It's not going to be your last job. So just jump in, and you'll eventually figure out if you like it or don't like it, or if you pick the right area. Maybe you want to be a chef. Maybe you want to run a dealership. We're going to be able to work for a dealership. Maybe your first choice, you decide you don't want anything to do with food service. I just think it's just better just to jump in and get a job and start working, and people figure it out. I mean, I think the biggest advice I would have is try to do something you enjoy doing. Then it doesn't seem so much like work. The money will come. You don't have to worry about that. If you worry only about that, then you're setting yourself up for maybe not being all that happy.
Yep, agreed. You got to be. I think you're right. I think there's this. Young folks just beginning their career want to have it figured out, and I think you're right. This is the job you're at now is not where you'll end. And if the litmus test, which you're applying to yourself, is some level of joy, of fun, of excitement, of enthusiasm, then that's the way to push forward and lean in.
Right. Exactly. I agree.
Good call, Argyle. That's a great answer. Another question, Nils, what impact does Cambro have on environmental issues? As the global leader in plastics, is there any environmental stuff as it relates to Cambro? Good question, Nils.
Oh my God, that is a deep question.
It's a doozy.
There are so many environmental issues and so many environmentalists, and every time you turn around, you're up for somebody has got their nose out of joint about what you're doing or not doing. But you just have to be careful. You have to manufacture in a socially responsible way. You got to manage the waste that comes off manufacturing. I think the concern is going to be with us. I think responsible manufacturers can manufacture in a responsible way. Mm-hmm. There's waste streams to consider. There's raw material to consider. I mean, it's just part of being in business. There's local ordinances. There's more global ones. So you just have to be aware of it and try to do your best and be the best citizen you can be of your local and state, national, and globally.
Love it. Well said, Argyle. Yeah, well said. Be as responsible as we can. Question for you. Professionally, is there a moment that you would say we're big into creating pride moments in the Food Service Power Play Network. I'm a big believer that building confidence, growing in who we are, if you can create a proud moment, something you're proud of, and build upon them, then you continue to advance. Is there something you would say was the proudest moment of your professional career?
That's a good question. I think the turning point when I look back on it, when my dad, who started the company, he passed away in 1991, and I was thrown literally into the fire, and so I'm proud of figuring out, could I really do it, because I didn't know whether I could do it or not. So I had to find out, and I had to find out in a hurry. And I'd say what came, the few years after that, I think I'm proudest of.
Good for you. Wow. Was that a position that you were prepared for at the time, or something that was totally new and kind of out of the blue for you?
I'd been working here for quite some time before that. So I was, that's a good question. I guess I was prepared to do it, but I didn't really know what I was prepared to do. And I didn't know the magnitude of the responsibility. So I found out pretty quick.
Right. It's like someone says, you can, if someone's getting ready to have a kid, you can talk about you can tell someone what it's like to have children, and they can study it and they can, read about it. But until you have a kid, you have no idea. Or someone said recently, you can't learn about love by reading about it. You've got to experience it. There's only so
Right.
much preparation on the outside. Three things, a couple things on your bucket list that you're excited about, you want to do, you want to try.
I like to do more traveling. I've traveled all sorts of places. Most of them have been a good percentage of it has been on business. I'd like to go back to some of them and do a little bit more personal travel. Although business travel, you get a good blend when you travel. I guess those are the things I would like to do, but I don't want to give up what I'm doing to make the time to do it. So it's a little bit of a quandary.
I love it. You just are really still having a blast, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Cambro's in a better position now than it's ever been, and it's the most fun it's ever been. We have more opportunities than we've ever had. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Good for you. Gosh, I love it. I think when I look at folks that I admire the most, as it relates to professionally or even personally friends, it's people who really, like you said earlier, they don't think they're working. They love what they do, and again, not every moment is sunshine and roses, but they wake up most mornings with an energy and a creativity to go invest their time and resources and heart in what they're doing. And it's I'm really glad that you get to live that.
Yeah, my wife isn't a real morning person, but I always tell her this is the first day of the rest of your life. Let's go out and make it a big one. But, that sometimes doesn't go over that big, but I always think it's a good idea.
I can relate to that. Hey, babe, let's start the day. And she's like, give me another hour.
Right.
I hear it. Here's a question. What do you challenge your reps to do? Are there ways you engage with reps in order to meet their sales goals? Good question, Scott.
That's a very good question. I think you have to give the reps pretty lofty sales goals, but at the same time, you have to make sure they have the tools to accomplish those goals from the Cambro side. We need people to go out and coach and help, definitely. And we need to make it make it fun and make it so that if they're successful, they're rewarded appropriately. That's all of that.
Scott, great question. There's the goal on one side and also the support of that. I love what you said, Argyle. We need to make sure we're giving them the tools needed to accomplish those goals.
Right.
Love it. But from an outside perspective, it's easy to look at you, Argyle, and say, listen, here's a successful person in food service. But how I define success might not be how you do. How do you define success?
I don't know. Good question. I guess just living your life to the fullest and having goals and meeting goals and having a life balance where you have a balance between your professional and your family and your recreation, all those activities. Try to keep them in balance. I found out a long time ago, don't take yourself too seriously. That's about all I can share. That's just how I live my life.
It seems like you do. I love it. Someone saying sell more. There you go. Chip Little. It's just plain fun selling Cambro. What a great way to live life. That's awesome. Argyle, I so appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your story. There's something I learned years ago. The phrase says, sales is simply a transfer of enthusiasm. And as it relates to who we are as professionals, certainly as it relates to Cambro and what you do and the solutions you provide to the industry, you can feel that enthusiasm coming out of you. But I would also say on a bigger scale, just an enthusiasm for life, for what we do as career people, for the hobbies that you have. It just seems like you live an enthusiastic journey that makes me want to find more things that I love doing as well.
Well, you definitely have to have a balance. You can't be all of one thing or all of another. And one of the things I wonder about myself is that when I'm unable to do this and it comes time to retire, that worries me. I don't know what I'm going to do because if I get given enough spare time, I know that I could probably get myself in trouble. So working is probably better for me than not working.
Sure. I hear you on that. It's when you love what you do, just stopping doesn't sound all that wonderful, I guess.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Here's Zena's asking a question, and I don't know that you need to get into certain details. Zena's saying, how much market share of Cambro's brick and mortar? Part two question, being a private owned company, any advice for the privately owned dealers in this internet world? I think it's fair to say, we mentioned Amazon earlier. They're changing what customers expect. Next day product and service. And certainly we're seeing that. What's the advice that you give brick and mortar dealers that maybe don't have a huge online presence as they work to remain competitive?
Well, you have to understand what you do well and then do it. You should have an online presence, but figure out how you're going to do it and keep it fresh. Don't just do it once and let your website sit there. That'll be worse than not doing it all. So it's always got to be fresh, and that's got to be a commitment from the ownership to make sure that it stays fresh and everything on there. So that's, but I think it is. We are in that world, and I wouldn't just say, "Oh, I'm not doing it." No, I think that would be a mistake.
Great call. Keep growing for sure. Kurt, our buddy Kurt out in Ohio. What leadership skills in your life at Cambro help you in sailing and vice versa?
Might be the other way around.
Maybe so, and vice versa. I'm assuming there's a transfer of those skills between both.
Yeah, there's a big transfer. There's a big similarity between sailboat racing and running Cambro. The good thing about sailboat racing is on Sunday evening, you understand if you were successful or not successful. In a corporate scenario, you get your scorecard every month. But in sailing, it's Sunday evening when you come in, they add up the points and you either won or you didn't win. So there's a lot of similarities that can be transferred as far as teamwork and strategy and practice and all of that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of similarities.
How cool when your hobby supports your career, lessons learned, and the themes that you can transfer both. I think that's really fun. Okay, the reason I think it's such a gift that you joined us is because so many people are taking what you've shared tonight, or just even me watching your excitement for life and what you do, and thinking, I wonder how I do a little bit more of that. And it's going to affect people in some way. And one of the things we want our industry leaders to know who come on this show is that you are making a difference, Argyle. You are, and you continue to affect people's lives in really neat ways. So we had, I had a couple people that I reached out to who wanted to share a couple of encouraging words, as we call them, about you and how you've affected them. So I'm going to read you a couple. This is oftentimes the most uncomfortable part for guests, but we're going to get through it, and it's going to be great. And we want you to know what a difference you're making. Our friend Gail Swain from your company. It's been so exciting to see Cambro's growth over all these years with Argyle at the helm. We went from being in one main building, which housed the offices, the manufacturing with a small warehouse behind, to factories across the globe and huge warehouses on both coasts, plus overseas. Argyle has always surrounded himself with a first-class team, and he is a great listener. I admire that he has the vision to continually invest in the future of this company and consequently invest in all of us. It's exciting to be known as the company that constantly brings new and innovative products to the market, because that is how we continue to grow and be profitable. And he makes sure that we have all of these great fun products to sell. Argyle has always been extremely down to earth, very humble, and very fair with everyone. You can see the respect for him in the eyes of all our employees. It's been a fun ride all these years, and to be associated with Argyle and Cambro. How fun. Thank you, Gail, for sharing. Our buddy Chris East out of Texas and Oklahoma with Crane Foodservice Solutions. Excuse me. At Crane Foodservice Solutions, we've had the privilege of representing Cambro for roughly a baker's dozen years or so. It's been an exciting and worthwhile adventure to see both companies continue to grow together. As one of the industry's true manufacturing leaders, there are so many accolades that could be shared, but none of them would be possible without the vision, the drive, and the personal commitment from Argyle Campbell. While many companies in similar product segment categories opted to take the bulk of their manufacturing overseas in recent years, Argyle doubled and tripled down on U.S. manufacturing with his expansion in Southern California, as well as a new massive East Coast manufacturing and distribution center in North Carolina. Many folks of a certain age in their career would understandably find it easy to slow down, live off pre-existing successes, shun technology, and go find a relaxing, low-impact hobby. Not Mr. Campbell. As a private business owner in a sea of conglomerates, Argyle continues to put his money where his mouth is and push himself, invest in new tech, continue to build his brand, and double and triple his worldwide manufacturing and distribution facilities. He pushes his leadership team, his companies, and his reps for excellence, but no more so than he does himself. That's pretty cool. Now that's Argyle the businessman. Innovative, constantly measuring, hard driving, always having high expectations of himself and those around him. But there's also Argyle the man, who enjoys life outside of Cambro as well. A doting and devoted husband to Bridget, a diehard Angels baseball fan, highly skilled sailing enthusiast, proud father and grandfather, and even my occasional beer drinking buddy at the Lowenbrow tent at Oktoberfest in Munich. Argyle, although I'm sure I've made you madder than a hornet's nest over the years, we've had some great times to smile about. As I write this, no matter the successes, accomplishments, or accolades achieved, I'm 100% confident we're no longer allowed to frequent the Goat Hill Tavern anymore together.
That's a very true statement.
Cheers, Argyle. Where is the Goat Hill Tavern?
It's on Newport Boulevard, and that's a very true statement. We're not allowed to go to the Goat Hill Tavern anymore. And we were lucky to get out of there all in one piece the first time or the second time, but we're not going there anymore.
Oh, I can't wait for more of that story offline. All right, we've got two more. Greg Fisher. I've been representing Cambro in sales and marketing roles for the past 36 years. I first met Argyle when interviewing for Cambro as a manufacturer sales rep. The interview was with his father, Bill Campbell, the founder of Cambro, and with Argyle, his son. I recall the interview well, as I was offered to represent Cambro for Southern California and Southern Nevada. When I asked if there was a contract to sign, Bill simply stuck out his hand to shake on the agreement and said, "It's better than any contract we could sign on paper." To this day, it's still the best agreement I have ever made. Argyle took over the reins of the company when his father passed, and he had that same key trait of running Cambro as his father: integrity. His business ethics, integrity transcends the Cambro culture. It basically always comes down to do the right thing. And this is true in our quality and service and how we treat people. While Cambro is a large global food service equipment and supply company, we still operate as a family. Within Cambro, we refer to it as the Camely. Second time that's come up with Dan too. I believe this comes from the top, from Argyle, and the fact that we have respect for each other and share common goals. In addition to this value, the other key component Argyle brings to the company is an unwavering commitment to quality. If you ask any operator that uses Cambro in their kitchen, their comments always start with quality and durability of our product. And while all these are great business traits, the most important is that Argyle will always listen. He'll always process and act with logical planning to continue to move Cambro forward on a daily basis. As he often says, the way I view Cambro is we are just getting started. Love it. Last is from one of your friends at the Cheesecake Factory, Kix McGinnis Nystrom. I hope I pronounced that correctly. For more than 35 years, Cambro products have been a staple item in the Cheesecake Factory's catalog of restaurant equipment and smallwares. How cool. The Cheesecake Factory's high volume and fast-paced restaurants demand the use of only the finest quality equipment. The design, quality, and durability of the Cambro suite of equipment have met or exceeded our expectations at every level. In 1999, Cambro asked us to partner with them to test a new and innovative customizable shelving system guaranteed against rust and corrosion. The Marina Del Rey location in California was chosen based on its high sales volume and challenging environment. And 23 years later, these same shelving units are still serving the restaurant's needs today. Cambro is responsive to our needs, values our feedback as operators, and applies lessons learned to continue to innovate and evolve their product lines, benefiting the entire industry. With Argyle's leadership, Cambro remains attentive to the needs of its customers and the industry, and their commitment to innovation, made in the USA product quality, and customer service is unparalleled and has played a significant role in maintaining a vital and collaborative partnership with Cheesecake Factory. How cool is that?
Very cool.
Argyle, man, I hope you feel the love. I hope you recognize that you've done really big things. The culture you've built at Cambro, the Camely, the people who you've helped succeed at their highest levels, the just excitement you convey in what you do, that I think everyone watching is finding a way to say, I want to cultivate that excitement in what I'm doing as well. It's really meaningful. And I'm grateful for your role in the industry and you joining us tonight.
Well, it's just a pleasure to be able to do so, and it was a very nice experience. So thank you for having me.
Argyle, we love it. Who's this? This is it's our friend Deirdre Flynn and Nepham. Great conversation. Thanks, Jason, and thank you, Argyle, for sharing and moving the food service industry forward. Dee, really, really well said. Zena, proud to have crossed paths with you on many occasions. I'm proud to sell Cambro. I never worry about quality. Heck yes. What a great thing to hear. Love me some Cambro. Nathan Sugars, this is great. Gosh, everybody, thanks for joining Argyle tonight. You know, I hope you walk away with some lessons learned. For me, I would say the most impactful is probably love what you do. Test the waters, try new things, be creative, and see how it feels. What is it? Does it make you come alive? Does it make you shrivel? If it makes you shrivel, go find something new. Try that next thing or a different role in a company, whatever that is. But, the lesson that Argyle tells folks coming into Cambro is do something that you love. And I think when you do that, as he says, the money comes, that element of success that many people are looking for, that comes if you're doing what you love. Because if you're doing what you love, those creative juices are flowing every morning when you wake up, to push you forward, to innovate, to try new things, to be willing to take risks. What a cool story. Riley, proud to be part of the Camely. Yo, Riley. Amber, thank you, Argyle and Jason. Great conversation. Thanks, Amber. Hope you are well. Everybody, food service power planner, keep growing. Keep learning. If you're in a place in life where you're not totally feeling creative, or your energy's low, or you're not loving what you're doing, just push in, try something new. Be willing to ask yourself, what do I love? What's moved me in the past? And is there a place in my organization or maybe outside that I can go create that in my life? Food Service Power Plant Network, be well. Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. Your questions, your comments are supporting partners. Argyle, thanks again. We'll see everybody soon.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.